Welcome to one of the first episodes of CallCore Conversations. Thanks for hopping on with us today. So like I said, my name is Liza. I'm the director here at CallCore Media. And this is just something a little bit new that we are working on. Me and Chris are pretty big on LinkedIn, and we've been in this space for quite some time. So we figured this would be something fun and different that we could put out, and also, help other people with getting their name out as well. So speaking of names, you guys have the name the Punching Nuns, which is definitely very different. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's actually came from my work with Ascension, which is the largest Catholic health system in the country. I was a service line executive for women's health, and there was one nun left, and I just loved her to pieces. And every time I was angry about something, which was a lot, I would go to her office and we'd game plan. And she was just awesome. But my husband got me a boxing nun hand puppet, and she thought it was hilarious. I had it in my office, and 12 years of Catholic school, so I know all about that. But we both thought when I started my company, that's very interesting. And I love their servant leadership that they tried to teach the non-religious people. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to fold that into the vision and mission of my company, and we'll just use that. It'll be a fun brand, and it's a good story to tell. So that's
right. That's awesome. Yeah, it definitely caught us off guard. I'm like, I got to ask her about that name. So you guys are in marketing for healthcare. So explain to me a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. I started this 15 years ago. I had done about 8 startups at that point. And so I loved, you're either a big company person or small. Every time I speak to younger people, I say it's not just about the function, it's really about the environment. And so, I wanted to create something that would work best for smaller growth stage venture-backed companies, because that was kind of what I'd always done. But I wanted to do it across multiple instead of one at a time, because I just thought doing this one at a time is not where I want to be 10 years from now. And so we designed what I call an outsourced marketing department. So we're extremely broad in our service offering, but we really plug into these companies and act as their marketing leadership team and implementation team, and really do everything from soup to nuts. And so we're dedicated to healthcare. About 96% of our client base are healthcare companies. So everything from, providers delivering care, or tech-enabled services, or vendors that offer financial support to hospitals and practices. So we literally cover the gambit. So we really work across every segment of healthcare.
Awesome. And you guys do even Medicare and things like that with the older generation?
Yes. Well, we worked with a lot of companies that sell to health plans, to Medicaid and Medicare plans. And so like care management services, for example, that would support people in that Medicare bracket to plug into the right level of service, and to make sure all care gaps are covered, that kind of thing. So there's really nothing we haven't marketed, but a lot of healthcare is sold to payers, health plans. And so that's a whole thing in and of itself.
Awesome. So I'm just going to kind of tell you a little bit about what we do. So we've actually been in this space going on 13 years. We started in lead generation. We were actually doing things like education. Education was our biggest thing back then. We had about 200 to 250 employees. And of course, this was way before COVID. So they all worked in-house. And with education, it was very successful for a while, but it started to get watered down and oversaturated. So we switched to call to hire campaigns, which was like Lyft and DoorDash and that type of thing. And we actually tripled Lyft's valuation before they went public. Then with the call to hire, it was going good, but we wanted to explore lead gen again, because that's where we were very successful. So we got back into debt, final expense. We actually did a lot of healthcare campaigns ourselves. I actually started with this company on the phone for Medicare and the Affordable Care Act. So do have a little bit of experience with healthcare marketing myself. And then I was promoted from there to floor manager and now up to director. Then with that, we started seeing the same things that we did in education. It became watered down and, very oversaturated. There was a lot of brokers in this space dealing with brokers. Like sometimes you can buy a phone call from them and it's going through 6 people before it ends up at the actual buyer itself. So we, selling calls and buying calls at that time, we started facing a lot of different issues, connection issues, because, things weren't set up correctly on the back end, broken reports. So, when you're trying to monitor your quality and the reporting is wrong, it kind of hinders you there. And just a lot of things in that space. So we actually, from there, started offering our consulting services. And we handle a lot of different stuff for many different centers, anything on the back end of the call center. So from their dialer, their CRM, any automated reporting they need. We even can help manage their agents and any tech setups they can possibly think of. We have a wizard here who is our tech guy, and he can handle anything. And, even doing their hiring and quality assurance. So also in that, we started working with a lot of buyers who were facing the same issues that we were. So we started offering also exclusivity campaigns. With these exclusivity campaigns, the buyers are in full control of what they want the script to look like, what they want the quality assurance process to look like, what they want the reporting to look like. They manage, what their CPA is. Tell me about probably your best healthcare marketing campaign that you led. What were the strategies that you put in there, the goals and the results that came out of them?
We've worked with about 165 companies over the last 15 years, and so many different stories, and they're all different. But, for our clients, an exit, an acquisition, those kinds of things are usually sort of the ultimate sign of success. But in getting there, we build brands that are very differentiated, and then, really initiate. I always say if we're not generating leads, then there's really no value ultimately to our efforts. So I would say in terms of best brand we've ever developed, there's a company in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, outside of Nashville, called 12 Stone Health Partners. And that brand was kind of the vision of the CEO, who's a pharmacist and now a state senator here in Tennessee. But it was really meant to kind of express his value structure. And so everything we've done there, from the design of, it's an infusion, specialty pharmacy with an infusion suite business, is designed to really express the brand in such a beautiful way. And they've now built to 21 centers across the Southeast and are doing quite well. From a lead gen standpoint, we worked with a company in California that had gone public since, but it was a scribing solution. So offshore scribing, people listening to medical appointments and then developing the notes, et cetera, for the physician, in order to kind of improve quality and make sure that all of the gaps are addressed and all the notes are put in the system like they need to be, because sometimes physicians get busy. But we were able to build a crazy big funnel that was about $100 million worth of lead gen opportunity direct at physician practices, which is a really hard type of lead generation to do. But we're able to do that through a variety of digital strategies that were very successful. I always say content is king, and with any sort of lead gen effort, the action is important, certainly, but what really matters is content, and that's sort of true across the board. I think that tools change in marketing, but the underlying requirement for a really strong, differentiated message about the person sort of sharing the message is really critical. And in healthcare, I think that you really got to understand the industry in order to get it right, especially with a B2B play.
Right. I love hearing successful brand stories. We're actually, like I said, we've been around for 12 years, but in the past, say about 3 to 4, we've really been trying to get out there and grow our brand ourselves. So that's why we're here doing this as well. So that's awesome to hear. So trends change all the time. I know you said that content was definitely key. And that's something that we see regardless of the platform that we're on. How do you stay current with trends in, the regulations in the healthcare industry?
Well, that's obviously, as I grow older, I've forgotten more than I remember. But having people on your team that are tech savvy, I often say in marketing that there are 4 disciplines. There's project management, which is important. There's content development. There's design. And then there's this whole tech piece that historically had been about website development, but now it really takes on a completely expanded sort of view. So MarTech stacks, the whole marketing infrastructure and sales infrastructure that includes marketing automation platforms and CRMs, and then, of course, the whole digital side of a marketing effort, social media, et cetera. In order to scale those things and to get the data that you need to develop a program and maintain that program and optimize it, that kind of skill set is absolutely critical. Because we do integrated programs and really support clients across everything, it matters to us. We don't want to create great content nobody ever sees, and we need to put points on the board in order to maintain our relationships, which, on average last more than a couple of years, which we're very proud of. So getting that tech piece right is important, and it's important, again, for scale and for data, so that you can go back to the client and say, here's what we've accomplished, here's, where we started and what we've grown to. And also, it helps with that full attribution. Historically, back in the Mad Men era, you put a print ad out or a billboard, you have no idea other than just sales, which is great, but there's a process there. And now with all of these tools, we can really see from kind of gross prospect all the way to purchase where things stand. Are there, things getting caught up? Are the sales teams responding like we kind of set things up? Are we needing more top of the funnel? Whatever the case is. So I think that's something that's certainly evolving over time. And, I think staying current is important to kind of be relevant as we go forward. And, things that change constantly are, algorithms for Google, what worked yesterday might not work today. And the only way to stay on top of that is to really have the data to see when there are fluctuations, and having a good team that's out there looking for that kind of thing. In terms of healthcare, Europe went to a very restrictive solicitation, even B2B, which is really rough. So they aren't able to do nurturing in any extensive way. We've got a client in London, for example, and so we're able to do a lot of marketing in the U.S. that we can't do in Europe because of the GDRP kind of requirements, which, are a bit over the top because we know in healthcare, not everybody's out there searching for the thing they're looking for, right? If it's an innovative technology like this client in London, that's a real transformative RTLS solution, which is kind of a location service type thing, nobody's looking for what they've got. It's an educational pitch. So if you can't nurture, you're really hamstrung in terms of trying to build a brand and get in front of the people that you want to talk to.
Yeah.
So those are some interesting kind of international type hurdles.
Yeah, we definitely see the tech piece ourselves. Like I said, we have a really good tech guy here, thank goodness. And that's why we started, the consulting, is because there was just so many people that we ran into, worked with, networked with that did not have that in place. And like you said, that is very, very important to have there. And we see those challenges when, like I said, we have a really big motor vehicle accident campaign. And there's a lot of challenges there too with solicitation. Lawyers are not allowed to actually go out and solicit anybody who is in an accident unless they specifically ask them to be, calling them. So those are some challenges that we face as well. I know they're a little bit of different worlds, but still the same hurdles there. So that leads me to my next question. There is a lot of different tech stuff coming out nowadays with automation and AI, very trendy right now. Don't think they're going anywhere soon. So do you use any automation or any, artificial intelligence in your marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I actually just developed a blog about this topic. It's interesting. It's kind of a double-edged sword. AI can be really helpful for brainstorming and idea generation and structuring research. As far as using it, though, to write things, now this is, I think, the elusive hope of a lot of people is that, the robots will just create content. What we've discovered, however, is that companies that do that, like the algorithm knows and views it as plagiarism. And so we are very cautious about that. You still need good writers. I think it can help with scale and speed. But as far as replacing good, solid content, white papers, thought leadership pieces, bylines, it really can't. And I think that's something that companies need to be really cautious about. We took over a marketing program for a big independent physician practice group that covers like 19 states. And they had a built-in blog kind of component that was AI driven into this huge web infrastructure that they're using. And the company offering it was pretty pleased with themselves, but the internet was viewing it as plagiarism. So it was actually harming their SEO. So those are the kinds of things that I think people need to move forward cautiously. As far as, using AI for, lead gen or analytic purposes, yeah, there's absolutely a lot of that is being kind of added and built into Salesforce and HubSpot and other systems that are getting smarter and better at what they do. So I think we're all trying to stay ahead of the curve a little bit, but also cautiously move forward with good foundational principles of marketing and not thinking that, again, Salesforce doesn't sell, right? I mean, It's a tool. And if you don't have a good process and you don't have good people, you're going to have trouble. And, healthcare is extremely relational on the B2B side in particular. It's pretty relational on the direct-to-consumer side too. And so, it's important that that we don't kind of get into this head mindset that technology is just going to make this all happen magically for us. So it doesn't sell itself. Nothing sells itself. So it really requires, a lead is great, but there's a process that has to be initiated at that point.
Yeah, definitely lacks personality. I see a lot of times, a lot of these new creators that are coming out and, on LinkedIn or on different platforms, and a lot of their content is AI. And as soon as you look at it, you can automatically tell. And it is a big turnoff for a lot of people. If it's somebody that's coming in and they're new in this space, they might think it looks good, but somebody who's been in this space, even for a little bit of time, is going to know, that's artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. My oldest child's in a PhD program, and, the universities are really all over this in terms of being able to, undergrads aren't that bright, so a lot of them are trying to kind of use it to write things for them. But, ultimately, even in a doctoral program, it's got to be authentic. And, I think that tech advances very quickly, but the ability to monitor that stuff and figure it out also moves forward pretty rapidly. And so, I think human beings still have a role, certainly with marketing.
Yeah, for sure. So, healthcare is needed, obviously, by all ages. And we all know marketing to a wide audience can sometimes be tough. So how do you navigate that?
Well, that's a really important point. I think when you've got a direct-to-consumer kind of program, you have to know who you're selling to. And that's like, for example, GI, right, that's focused on colonoscopy. 45 and older, right? A business that's sort of focused on mammography, it's women and what age. Those things change over time based on, directives from the government and industry organizations. But healthcare generally, who you're trying to appeal to. The thing that can get tricky is, you've got to go to where they are. So that's changed over time, right? Facebook is now kind of a middle-aged woman's like home base. I'd like to say I'm middle-aged. I'd live to be 120, so that's not good. But so you have to adjust, and that does change over time. Like I have 3 kids, they're 10 years apart, top to bottom. Their behavior socially is completely different. And so depending on that audience, you can't assume every 65-year-old doesn't know how to use a phone, because that's also going out the window. Everyone knows how to use a phone now, people in their 80s as well. And so, the medium's change. Television's changing, like doing, cable ads and things along those lines. You have to be really thoughtful about spends, because, who's listening to radio, like FM radio now? Who's listening or watching television shows and not just going to Netflix? So we really have to craft lead gen strategies when in a direct-to-consumer context that are going to be relevant to the audience and meet them where they are. So as long as you know who they are, figuring out where they are is not that difficult. But, there's limitations. Facebook, like if you go on my Facebook page, you would know that I've got family members with Friedreich's ataxia, my children, because I post things about it, right? But you can't people based specifically on condition, and that stuff changes all the time too. So staying ahead of, what you can do safely, which is important, right? Because you want to get good things in front of people. Clinical trial solicitation, for example, doing that in a HIPAA compliant manner, utilizing systems where people have opted in. There's all kinds of new things now as the physician practice becomes more technologically advanced. So it's really a balancing act of, the right message for the right audience in a place where they're actually going to see it. And then the ability to track to make sure that you're actually doing a good job. All of those things are really important.
Yeah, for sure. I'm only 28, but I'm still on Facebook all of the time. So
maybe you're going to bring it back. Who knows? Yeah, Instagram's kind of won out, but it's all sort of merged into the same thing. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Most people my age are on TikTok or, Snapchat was kind of a thing, but no, I don't know if it's
that I will never understand personally. My son is big on that. I just I've opted out.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll wrap this up with probing your mind just a little. If somebody was new in the business and they were starting in your space, what's one piece of advice that you would give them?
I think back to, and I talk to a lot of young people. I'm on the board of my college, and so I'm always up there chatting with people in Latrobe, PA, go St. Vincent. And I talk to a lot of college students here in Nashville as well. But I think it's really important to know what your skill set is. There's great tools to help with that. Organizations like U-Science and others that'll do these assessments to kind of tell you how your God-given talents connect to jobs. Because again, within the marketing realm, there are 4 core areas, and you've got to kind of land on one. Like tech would never be the thing that I do, but I've got a terrific tech team, and they're just brilliant at all of that. And writing is such a great skill. And I think as much as we've got help with that through AI and some other aspects, nobody's learning to write anymore. And there's going to be, just like we don't have enough pilots, there's going to be a real need for people that can write. I think the disintermediation of the news world as it existed, you hardly ever have reporters that are now kind of long-term. They're all stringers. So you've got people coming in and out, and we're losing these really great writers and journalists. And so that's, I think, always going to be an opportunity. I think anything creative like that will be. But, even with graphic design, there's now some really incredible tools, but you've got to be somewhat, creative plus tech savvy. So that's where you're seeing a merging of those two things. So I think knowing yourself, talking to people, networking, talking to folks who've been in the industry. I mean, honestly, as a kid, my dad set me up to talk to an agency in Pittsburgh where I grew up because I thought I wanted to do that. And this guy literally said to me, "You'll make no money. You might as well major in Russian studies because we want somebody interesting." And this was a long time ago. But I was like, oh, no money, I'm not doing this, and ended up majoring in economics. So, which, there's relevance to marketing, but I don't have good math skills, so that was a problem. But you just have to know yourself and know where the opportunities are in the current economy, and that has changed tremendously. Like, programming was sort of the thing, like anybody could do that. Well, that's something where AI could have a significant impact near term. And now a lot of people are getting into, analytics and data science, which I think are going to really explode. Know what your God-given talent is that isn't going to change over time, because if you harness that, you will always be happy. If you go into something just for money, years ago, a nice fella was running a sales team, but he was a chemical engineer, and he'd done it because of money, and he was miserable. So, find the thing that's going to fill you up, talk to a ton of people, and then determine what kind of work environment you like. Are you somebody who can work from home? A lot of people can, and some people can't. They need the socialization. So learn those things by trying some stuff out. And then ultimately, a good woman told me once I was unemployable. She meant, go do your own thing. And that was the kick I needed because I was afraid, three little kids, and I was single. But so grateful I started my company. It's been a great joy and really blessed me and a bunch of other people. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's very good advice. And I find that when you find that tech person and the creative person and you put them together, good things can happen there.
Absolutely. But we still need people who can write in spite of that. So that's, you have all the things. You really can't just do one or the other, right?
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you kind of honed in on writing, because that's something that I've been working on personally. I do a lot of different things here, but one of them is, I'm very big on LinkedIn and trying to, again, build the CallCore brand. And writing is something that I have, over the past, I would say about year, tried to really focus on and get better at, because at first I was like, I sound like I'm in 6th grade.
Well, it's a skill like anything else, but, keep at it. Someday you may write a book. I did that last year, so check that off my bucket list. But it's important, I think, being able to express ourselves. I mean, really, the key to developing relationships that absolutely connect people to great sources of things or solutions, whatever the case might be, is clear communication. And I feel like in this world we live in now that is so social media directed, our attention spans are very short and we're losing that, but it's still necessary. So I don't think that's going to go away.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is a very big skill that not many people have nowadays. So just something like that can be a big asset.